Thank you so much for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's now time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. Let's have a peek through. The Nation newspaper saying, Shettima, Nigeria working. Vice President leads APC senior figures to submit Tinubu's nomination form. And then the Punch newspaper, primary elections, APC consensus push faces resistance in states. Yobe, Ogun, Sokoto, Plateau, Kwara aspirants oppose consensus, demand competitive race. Ondo, Benue, Oyo gear up for primaries as Tinubu governors aspirants submit nomination forms. APC adopts direct primary for presidential ticket. Next is the Nigerian Tribune. Uncertainty over Jonathan's links to 2027 presidential contest. Contesting for the presidency is not a computer game. I will consult widely, it says, as youths rally at his Abuja residence, adds that Nigeria has the highest voter apathy. Next is the Daily Independent. 2027 presidential race. I will consult widely before making a decision, Jonathan says. The Observer Times says 2 terms or 3. Federal High Court slates hearing for suit against Jonathan's re-election bid. Court orders service on INEC AGF as legal challenge to Jonathan's 2027 bid hits up. And the Platform Times says Nigeria tops global chart in voter apathy. Jonathan warns ex-president says turnout worse than in 14 African, Asian nations. Next is This Nigeria. Blackout for ex-power minister Maman. Court convicts him over 33.8 billion naira fraud. EFCC secures interim forfeiture of 9 Abuja assets linked to Timipre Silva. And the Leadership Friday, Governor Rada moles in government, security agencies, communities aiding bandits. And Nigerian News Direct, Xenophobia. Federal government to evacuate Nigerians from South Africa. And Weekend Hope also talks about xenophobic attacks as federal government counters South Africa, deplores unchecked humiliation of Nigerians. And the Blueprint newspaper, xenophobic attacks. Federal government moves to rescue citizens in South Africa, commits to diaspora engagement, my posting opportunity to serve Nigeria better. That's according to Fani Kayode. Okay, so next is the Guardian newspaper. NFF sit-tight syndrome. How skilled process makes life benchers of football administrators. And I guess last but not least is a Sporting Life Super League Golden Boot. Onuachu leads Igadi. Osimhen top scorers chart with 22 goals. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks by doing this with my colleagues Olamide and Etoma. We'll start with you, Etoma. Yeah. Looking at the Nation newspaper, we saw the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, picking up or submitting the APC presidential form, nomination form for the president. And then he's also saying that Nigeria is working. Vice President leads APC senior figures to submit Tinubu's form. Was it Okwemi Bamidele that picked up the form for the president at first and then later on the vice president? It's actually significant as a matter of the fact that when people were saying that looks like Tinubu would likely drop the vice president, you remember that conversation? Yes. But it does appear that it might still be the same ticket that they'll be running. He said he has sailed this ship through troubling waters with courage, taking difficult but necessary decisions to stabilize the economy.
Yeah, if he says Nigeria is working, I will agree with him. We've seen a lot of policies that, especially economic policies, that this administration has come up with, and we've seen the administration work it out in such a way that those policies end up working for the betterment of the country. The empathy side of administration, we've also seen that a whole lot. The response to disaster, we've seen that a lot. Intervention medically, we've seen that a lot. What sector do you want to talk about?
Absolutely.
So when he says
the stabilization of the exchange rate, the stabilization of the economy and all of that, that's reunification of the exchange rate and stabilization of the economy.
And you know what? One of the aspects I really like is that because you've been appointed doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. The day your performance drops, he has the courage to take you out and put another person there, taking it out, not in the way a lot of people would think about taking out. No,
Absolutely.
he will remove you and put another person because he wants to succeed.
Absolutely.
And a president that wants to succeed will always assemble a team that has that success mentality. So Nigeria is working.
Absolutely. So this is start to the Nation newspaper, the Punch newspaper, talking about primary elections. APC consensus push faces resistance in states. So we have Yobe, Sokoto, Plateau, Kwara, aspirants oppose consensus. Yes, Ondo, oppose consensus, demand competitive. So, talking about Ondo that you mentioned, Benue and Oyo, aspirants in these states are reportedly insisting on competitive primaries. And we see that APC backtracked, in its earlier decision, saying that it's going to be consensus. But now, even for the presidency, it's saying anyone who wants to buy the tickets, the form, should go ahead and do it. So we'll have fair contest.
Absolutely. At surface level, consensus arrangements, they project party unity, they project a sense of togetherness. But some people are now essentially arguing that this is top-down political engineering, and they don't want that, because I'm not saying that is what the APC is doing, but some people could argue that it suppresses competition and it doesn't even the playing field for everyone. We all know that elections are not necessarily won at the general election level. They are won at primaries. And so you're ruling out and you're narrowing the political field. And I do understand that thought process. On the other hand, the APC is being smart to defend themselves from internal conflicts and internal fragmentation ahead of the 2027s.
Absolutely. Toba, let's move on to Nigerian Tribune. Uncertainty over Jonathan's links to... why is this thing changing itself? Uncertainty over Jonathan's links to 2027 presidential contest. Contesting for the presidency is not a computer game. I will consult widely, says, as youth rally at his residence. So there's this conversation going about around former President Goodluck Jonathan, who we now see as elder statesman, not just in Nigeria, but the sub-Saharan region. Talk about ECOWAS, etc. But one thing is, it has a constraint, which critics often pointing to a 2018 constitutional amendment section 137 subsection 3 that stipulates that anyone who completes the term of his or her principal, such person will only run for one term. And we see some people from the north who are saying, no, let's just get Jonathan contest again, right? If he wins, then it would only do one term, so that the power would now shift back to the north, the north-south kind of arrangement. But then, with all of this, the court will still definitely decide, because Jonathan's camp are saying that amendment cannot be done, cannot be implemented retroactively. Yeah,
for Jonathan to contest at all, that section of the Constitution has to be amended.
Right.
But the thing that hit me when I saw that, I said, when Jonathan was president, he was the most abused president in Nigeria at that time.
Right.
Everybody hated him. They called him clueless. They called him all sorts of names. How he suddenly becomes the choice for everybody now just goes to show how life is. Right. You don't write anybody off. You don't say final statements about human beings, because we're not God. You don't know what tomorrow carries. And for Jonathan, he's been very wise by saying, look, this thing is not computer game. I have to do a lot of consultations. Why I say that section of the Constitution has to be amended is because it's very clear. And I look at it again, I said, but he did 2 years from Yaradua's ticket, not his ticket. So why do we have that in the Constitution that says if you've done that, then you cannot run anymore? And even if he is allowed to run, it is obvious that he will do only one term, because he's done one term already.
Absolutely. So, the Daily Independent is also saying the same thing. It says he will consult widely before making a decision. But the challenge there is, on what platform? Some are saying maybe on the PDP platform or the ADC platform. But Wike is saying that they've not gotten any information from the Jonathan's camp as to whether he's going to. And if he eventually throws in the towel, then his hat rather in the ring, then it might be disrupting the existing.
I must say, Goodluck Jonathan right now, he's being a bit of a political tease, isn't he? Saying, will I come back, will I not? He's being a political tease. But before we even talk about what platform, if he chose to return, would return on, and before we even talk about the constitutionality of his returning, because we know the argument of, did he serve a full term after in his first tenure, or did he not? But that's not the issue. I don't think that his biggest issue will be legal battles or platform shopping battles. I think his biggest battles will be political battles, because first of all, you've now positioned yourself as an international mediator, as a statesman, as an advisor. Do you really want to return to frontline politics? Anything you return to now is going to define your legacy forever. And so he has to think about that. He left on a good note. We love our Jonathan. Let's see. Do you want to come back and take on another place?
A statesman.
That's
leave the politics.
Winning the caution. I mean, throwing caution in the wind. You know, like, bro or dad, do not get it wrong. This Nigeria, let's jump to this Nigeria, saying blackout for ex-power minister Maman. And I think I love the way this headline is cast, because court convicts him over 33.8 billion naira fraud. EFCC secures interim forfeiture of 9 Abuja assets linked to Timothy Silva. We know how difficult it is for anyone, you know, to survive without power supply. And we had, you know, one of our former ministers being convicted for over 33 billion, you know, naira. This is crazy.
What stands out for me is that, for once, we are seeing a former public officer, you know, paying,
especially for power.
Yes, paying for his sins.
Right.
How many have we seen? How many situations like this has happened in Nigeria? Does it mean that every former public office holder did the right thing, did not take a dime or ran his or her ministry very well? We are beginning to see that there is reckoning for whatever you do in office. And that is the narrative I would like to sell. Let's continue this way. Then this official recklessness might reduce.
I want to see the same thing, you know, Obasanjo and Atiku, who also admitted that 16 billion naira was, you know, squandered, you know, during the administration, which was meant to go into power. We need to keep having that conversation. But let's move on to Leadership Friday. Governor Rada moles in governments, security agencies, communities aiding bandits. Of course, there's no way these people will thrive without having insiders helping them to stage terror attacks.
These are intricate terror networks, and we've said it time and time again. The reason it's so hard for the army to intervene and infiltrate sometimes, we've had people us talk about the concept of asymmetric warfare, is because oftentimes these terrorists are enmeshed with civilians. Yes. But I'm curious as to whether that relationship is symbiotic, or if these people have been forced to coexist with these terrorists. Governor, rather, you have the information. You are not in a position to be a whistleblower. You are an enforcer. You are a policy maker. You have the power to do the right thing. This is not the first time you've whistleblown. You're not a whistleblower, you're a governor, sir.
I'm seeing Olamide giving matching orders, you know, to those in authority right here on the set.
And I agree with what she's saying.
Absolutely.
You know, yes, you are a governor, you have executive powers, you know, but one of the things I'll ask you to do first is slow down on the public statements concerning security and identify those moles, flush them out.
Nigerian News Direct, Xenophobia. Federal government to evacuate Nigerians from South Africa. The same thing for Weekend Hope, talking about federal government counter South Africa deploys unchecked immigration of Nigerians. And Blueprint newspaper is also saying the same thing. Federal government moves to rescue citizens in South Africa. So we're seeing about 130 Nigerians have officially signed up to this register. And we've also seen Femi Fani-Kayode, who has now been declared,
Ambassador designated.
Yes, is High Commissioner, because countries that are among the Commonwealth are referred to, you know,
High Commissioners.
Yes, High Commissioners. So what do you say to this, you know, South Africa, Nigeria route?
You know, this concerns me personally, you know, and the fact that Nigeria has decided to do this makes me happy, you know, because a lot of Nigerians will be saved. You need to see what is going on there. We call it xenophobia. It's a compound word that covers a lot of grit that happens under. The humiliation that Nigerians go through, the insults that they have to go through, the physical pain they have to go through, and the fact that they are treated like, some words I don't want to use here, absolutely. But these, it's really bad. It's really bad. So it's a good move by the federal government. Let's evacuate Nigerians from South Africa.
And the Guardian newspaper saying NFFC tight syndrome, how skilled process makes live benchers, footballer administrators. So we see people who are not willing to leave, that particular position, and they've been there year in, year out, and made our football national team, deteriorate. And I mean, your very last comment.
Football is a game that is in constant motion. It requires movement, evolving and growing. The sport is changing, the fans are changing. We need fresh faces, we need people to be able to rotate, share that leadership, share their coaching skills, whatever the case may be. I don't like when people sit on a seat for too long.
Absolutely. Well, that's about it for the newspapers up for review.